LSVT Big and Loud presentation. We have several ladies that are going to be involved, so I'm going to introduce them to you. Ms. Emily Hollingsworth, she graduated with her physical therapy degree, assisting degree from Jefferson State Community College in 2006. With 17 years of experience, 15 of those at RMC in the outpatient department at the Tyler Center, Emily has treated everything from orthopedics to pediatrics. Most recently, she found a love for neuro. In the height of COVID in 2020, she became LSVT Big certified. My favorite thing about the LSVT Big program is that you truly see changes and results in the patients. The confidence that they feel when they finish our program is amazing. It really does work. Ms. Angie Furman received her physical therapy assisting degree from Wallace State in 1995, then her BS in exercise science and wellness with a minor in gerontology in 2001 from JSU. This will be her 28th year as a licensed therapist. Angie has been with RMC from 1995 to 2006, then again from 2015 to the present. She has worked in numerous settings, from acute care to home health, aquatics to skilled nursing, and now in outpatient care. Angie has always loved the neuro population and has had an opportunity to work with TBI, stroke, ALS, and Parkinson's patients during her career. She recently became LSVT Big certified. I'm extremely excited to use my knowledge and skills that I've gained from the certification to help others. Angie is an avid trail runner and has a precious miniature horse named Josie. I can only imagine the stories with that one. Brittany Shiflett received her BS in exercise science from Auburn University in 2019 and went on to receive her doctorate of physical therapy degree in 2022 from the University of South Alabama. Brittany has been working at the Tyler Center Outpatient Clinic since graduating in May and recently became an LSVT Big certified clinician. My favorite thing about working with the LSVT program is that it's customized to what the patient wants to work on, including everyday activities and hobbies. Also, not only do we see an improvement in overall function, but in their confidence as well. Ms. Deborah McGee. Deborah graduated from the University of Montevallo in 1995 with her bachelor's degree and in 1997 with her master's degree in speech pathology. This is her 26th year of practicing speech pathology. She's a native of Talladega County and is married and has 3 children. Throughout her career, she has seen both children and adults. Deborah is certified in the LSVT Loud lymphedema for head and neck cancer, vital stem, some other really big word that I'm not even going to try, and fees. Communication is a very important part of life. If people cannot communicate effectively, their life is greatly impacted. LSVT Loud has great results, and I love that it gives people part of their life back when they're struggling with expressing themselves. Ms. Lisa Scott. Ms. Lisa is the Director of Rehabilitation for the RMC Health System. She has been with RMC for 13 years and is a physical therapist for 41 years. Lisa holds an MBA from Webster University and numerous specialty certifications in neurological as well as orthopedic, sports, and pediatric rehab. She's passionate about providing high-quality one-on-one care in all areas of service in the RMC Health System. They are located in the Tyler Center, and they invite you to come by, see their clinic, and investigate their program. So welcome with me the Tyler Center ladies.
Decided we would just stay up here instead of doing it in the front. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. Well, welcome. Thank y'all for coming. I'm Emily. This is Brittany. She's going to be my slideshow person, and then we'll have Angie up in just a minute. But today we're going to be talking to you about our LSVT Big and Loud programs. And our programs are supported by research. One of the big ones that it's supported by is the National Institutes for Health. And so just know that when we're talking about all these things, there is research that backs up why this works. So what you're going to learn today about the LSVT programs is that how it addresses motor and non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's. We'll give you an overview of a session and show you some research. And then how exercise and therapy will both help, not just one or the other, and then how you get started with the big programs or the loud programs. All right, so up to 8 million people a year are diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it's expected to double by 2040. So are we ready? We hope so. We're going to help with that with our LSVT programs. Let me just hold this. Okay. Is that better? Okay. All right, so our global mission is to empower people with Parkinson's and other conditions to restore and maintain their highest levels of functional communication, mobility, independence in daily life through scientifically supported therapy programs, including loud and big. So, what is the LSVT protocol? It's based on research, again, 30 years of it. And so, loud is the speech side. It's provided by a speech therapist who is certified in LSVT loud. And big is it's either physical or occupational therapy, and it is certified by either an occupational therapist, a certified occupational therapist assistant, a physical therapist, or a physical therapist assistant that is certified in the big program. All right, so we're going to show you one video. We're going to start out with the loud stuff. This video is a lady, she's 59, she's been diagnosed with Parkinson's for 2.5 years in this video. She came to the loud program because of changes in her speech and voice patterns. And currently in the video, she's during and on time with her medications. There have been no changes in medications since she started this specific program, and she's gone through the intensive 1-month program of loud.
Changes in your speech or your voice that you
see that on the screen?
would associate with Parkinson's.
Yes, I don't speak loud enough a lot of times.
Anything else?
Hoarse.
Anything else?
I stutter, which I never did before.
Do this for me if you would. Take a deep breath and say ah for as long as you can. Good. Okay. Would you say Parkinson's disease has caused you to talk less
Yes,
because?
because I stutter and then I can't be heard. If there's noise in the house, like when the kids come over, nobody pays attention to it because they can't hear me. So I get mad and then yell.
Take a deep breath and say ah for as long as you can. Have you noticed changes in your speech or your voice as a result of the speech therapy?
Oh yes,
What have you noticed?
I talk louder, I think louder. I'm going to sing with some of those songs of my ear one of these days with my voice.
Good for you. That's excellent. What practicing do you do at home?
My eyes and my nose, and I read out the mail out loud.
Do you feel like practicing helps?
Oh yes.
Do you feel as though people can understand you all of the time now?
Majority of the time, unless it's my husband, and they say, well, I can't hear you. But I think he does that.
Has anyone commented that it's easier to understand you now?
Oh yes, I sent some of our friends back when we went to their house and I talked about, my goose says, what the heck do you? My daughter said, oh, Mom, that's you?
Good. Don't you feel wonderful?
Oh yeah, because now she gets it. I didn't understand what you said.
No excuses, right?
Yeah, no excuses.
Right. So what do you do when you want to be as easy to understand as possible?
Think loud.
Okay, so some of the things that we see during the LOUD program and even the big program, it talked about how her voice was low and how she was hoarse. They have kind of a monotone voice in a lot of patients. And something that they don't talk about, this is in general in Parkinson's patients, is they kind of have that flat effect where they're not really smiling or showing any emotion. And by the end of her program with the LSVT Loud, she had more emotion in her face. Obviously, she could say things louder and more. She was definitely more vocal, and she could sing. So that's one of the things that we love to hear when we're talking about our LSVT programs, is the changes that make their patients' lives better in general. Okay, so speech disorders and Parkinson's disease. Over 89% of individuals with Parkinson's suffer from speech and voice disorders, like the loudness or the monotone stuff, the hoarseness, and imprecise articulation. Somebody did talk about how it sounded like they were talking in cursive. That is definitely a thing that we hear with our Parkinson's patients. So people who are clinically asymptomatic for speech deficits still report feelings of embarrassment and social stigma related to this because they can't be heard or they are hard to understand. And does it matter? Of course it does, because if they don't have a voice, they don't have a life. So, now we're going to move on to the big, which I know y'all were very excited about the loud, and I'm sorry our speech therapist couldn't make it today. But the big portion, we're going to show you a video. We may have to cut it off sooner. I'm going to talk through it. There is no sound. There's no sound to the video. But we have a patient who was 71. He'd been 14 years diagnosed. He was referred to PT for his slowness and his difficulty walking, falls, and freezing, which all of y'all with Parkinson's know that those are very common symptoms. His medications were optimized before starting the program. He had no changes in his medication during the therapy, and he did go through the full 1 month intensive of the big program. So this is Bernie we're going to be seeing. And if you'll notice before, it says pre on the left side. Bernie's walking very slowly with very short steps, using a cane. A little bit of freezing, trying to, with that change in surface right there, a little bit of freezing there. And so on the right, after he completed his program, you'll see that he's walking without a cane. That's a big change. And that he's making very big steps. Another thing to note is that he has very little arm swing when he's walking on the left side. And part of the big program, we teach you bigger movements so he gets that arm swing going on the right side video.
The length of time?
The program is 1 month. So between, probably if I had to guess, this first video was taken the day he was evaluated, and then the second video is probably taken either the last day or somewhere between the last day and that last week. So all of that to say, after doing the LSVT big program, Bernie had a lot of better results. So before, he was falling 1 to 2 times a month, and during the program and after, he had not had any falls. He was using a cane to start with, and by the end of it, he wasn't using a cane. His confidence with his balance improved, his gait speed, his walking speed improved, and his endurance overall was better as well. He could walk farther before he had to stop. All right, so there are 3 key features of LSVT Loud and LSVT Big because the principles are kind of the same in each program. We're still trying to focus on target or the bigness or loudness of what we're doing, so we're making our amplitude bigger. We're working on our mode, which is intensive, high effort with all of our stuff. And then we're working on calibration, making it last, getting the patient to recognize when they're doing it well and when they're not doing it well. And so how do we do that? We're targeting the bigness or the loudness. So a patient in the loud program talking really softly, by the end of it. Like the lady in the video, they're talking very loudly. They have very healthy vocals. And with the patients in the big program, they're starting out, they might be posturally down here, walking with a cane, very little trunk or arm movement, and by the end, they're walking really big, making more normal strides and movements. So their small movements can get too small, and their brain is telling them that they are doing just fine. And then in the big program, what we do is talk about how to make it bigger. So that's when we talk about mode. We're using intense, high effort for both the big and the loud. So whether it's for speech therapy or physical and occupational therapy, we're working that intensity. One of the things that we think about when we're doing this, it is intense. And it is 4 days a week. It is 1 hour per session per discipline. So it's 1 hour of physical therapy, it's 1 hour of speech therapy for each program. And it is individual. You're not in a group. You're not working with other people. You are doing it on your own, one-on-one with a therapist. You're given daily homework. So once you start this program, you are going to have homework every day to have the best results with this program. So every day you're going to be given the homework. It's going to be the same exercises that you do with us in clinic. But then also we're going to give you daily carryover exercises to help make this more beneficial to you in the long run and keep you interested and motivated in what you're doing. All right, so we've got 5 key principles that support learning and brain change, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to work on that neuroplasticity in the brain. That's a big word that just means we're trying to reshape what you're thinking about, what your brain is doing. So first of all is intensity. So we're driving that intensity with how long we do these sessions every day and how many times a week you do these sessions. And then we're going to do the complexity with complex movements in our environment, right? And then we're going to do it with repetition. So again, that frequency every day, 4 days a week, and then in clinic, and then every day when you're not in clinic too. So, and then it's salience, which means it's rewarding to the patient. So these exercises that we focus on are specific to our patients. We're picking things that the patients want to do and want to improve on. And then I'm going to let Brittany say this word.
Specificity.
Did y'all hear that? Because I have struggled over this word and I was not about to say it today. Well, that's true. So we're training the deficits, the small movements, and we're practicing to make those functional. And our goal is calibration. So we're addressing the mismatch between the patient's perception of movement and what we need to happen and how others perceive it. So your perception is that it's big, but we as non-Parkinson's people see that it's not very big. So we're trying to change that. Same thing with LSVT loud. We're trying to calibrate. We're addressing barriers to generalization. So we're addressing the patients with soft speech, but think it's loud. We're addressing that volume and intensity that you speak with. Patients feel like they're shouting, they're really not. So we're just working on a lot of things there. All right, so motor and non-motor symptoms. A lot of people know about the motor symptoms, the tremors and the freezing and things like that, like the doctor talked about earlier. But then there's also the non-motor symptoms. And I'm not going to read all of these, I'll save y'all some time. But the non-motor symptoms include anxiety and sensory changes and even the cognitive side of it, and sleep disorders and depression. So those are some of them. So feedback. Our feedback is specific and necessary for our patients to improve. It's empowered and meaningful, and it's necessary for calibration. So we're going to make sure that this is the same amount of effort you're giving every day, right? So the example is, that's the same amount of effort you need to use when you're lifting your legs into your car. And you want to stress that with your patients when they're doing something, because if they're doing it at home, they want it to improve and you want it to sound like it's, well, I'm having trouble with my words right now, but you want it to be important to them and you want them to be able to repeat it later. Okay, we're going to swap. Okay, so I am going to go through briefly just kind of what a treatment session would look like. So I'll start with the LSVT big. So again, you'll kind of have an initial evaluation, and then you'll start your 4 sessions per week for 4 weeks of 1-hour sessions. So each session is going to be pretty much the same, again, because we need to do it repeatedly over and over. So we start out with 7 what we call maximal daily exercises, and we're going to demo a couple of those. But those are going to carry over into things like just your walking or your stepping, kind of maneuvering around in the kitchen or the bathroom, things like that. Then we'll have 5 functional task components. So one of those 5 is always going to be a sit to stand. So working on standing up from whatever surface. So sometimes it may be difficult to get up and down from a low toilet seat or your recliner and things like that. So every single session we work on that sit to stand so that it becomes easier no matter where you're at. Then the other 4 functional tasks, that's something that we'll come up with together. So on day 1 of your evaluation, we'll fill out a task form of about 10 things that you're having difficulty with, and then you'll rate those on how much difficulty you're having. And so we'll kind of talk through those so that we can come up with 4 of the most important that we're working on every single session. So those are your functional tasks. Again, there's 5 of those. Then we go into hierarchy tasks. And some of the examples for functional tasks, it can be like rolling over in bed or turning sideways if your bathroom is a little bit smaller and that's something you kind of freeze with often. Maybe it's writing a letter or writing a check, because sometimes your handwriting can become smaller just like any other kind of movement. So kind of tasks like that. Then we move into the hierarchy tasks. So those are similar to your functional tasks. They're just a little bit more complex. And those we will do 1 to 3. So an example, instead of just rolling over in bed, maybe you have difficulty just getting in and out of bed in general. So we'll work on pulling the cover back, getting your legs up, rolling over, getting out of bed. So you can see with a hierarchy, it just takes a couple more steps, so it's just something a little bit more complex. Or maybe getting in and out of the car. So that takes us walking up to the car, opening the door, sitting, getting our legs in. So it's just a couple more steps than what our functional tasks would be. Then we'll work on walking each day. You know, it's patient dependent, so whatever you kind of need to work on. If you're already not using an assisted device like a cane or walker, then we'll keep working on, you know, not having to use one. We'll work on walking on unlevel surfaces or the stairs. Maybe if you're a little bit more dependent on a wheelchair, well, we'll work on using a cane or a walker, you know, whatever is necessary. And then again, for all 30 days, you'll have homework. So on your therapy days, you will go home and complete everything we did in that session 1 more time. On your non-therapy days, so the weekends, you're going to have to do that twice a day. And then, like we mentioned before, you also have a carryover assignment all 30 days as well. So it is a very intense program, but you can see in the videos just how much progress can be made with it. Next is the LSVT loud session. So with this one, bear with me because I'm no speech therapist, but the daily exercises consist of your ahs, so working on like how long you can sustain an ah. So you saw the lady in the video, the first one, you know, it was a couple seconds, and then later she was able to sustain
that voice projection. Then you'll work on the range, so being able to change, so you don't have, like we talked about, that monotone voice. So being able to change the pitch of your voice, lower or higher. Then you'll work on just overall loudness. Hierarchy task for this is a little bit different. It's more based upon which week you're in the program. So the first week, you'll work on words and phrases. Then you can progress to sentences the second week. You can do reading the third week, and then just general conversation the fourth week. So with all of these, we're progressing each day and each week with all of the exercises that we're doing. And then again, you still have carryover homework with those too. Okay, we are going to demo a couple of the LSVT big exercises. Maybe a little blocked, which will kind of get the idea. And then if you want to join in while you're seated, feel free if any of y'all know some of the exercises already. Maybe you feel like you need one versus the other. As far as in the LSVT big though, we will have you kind of chanting with us. So you're still working on that voice projection, even while you're working on the big movements too. So just a couple of like how these exercises can kind of carry over. It can work on that main thing we're targeting, which is your amplitude. So getting those slower, smaller movements to very big movements. It can work on like starting and stopping. You saw in the video kind of freezing when he went to step over the mat or in the doorway. Works on your posture, your strength, your balance, all sorts of things. And again, again, it's personalized, so we want it to be something that is meaningful to you. This picture right here shows one of our other exercises, a rock and reach, and you can kind of see how that can carry over into just everyday walking with the big arm swings and the big steps. Plus, you want it to be personalized and purposeful practice. So again, I think one of the biggest things to take away is it really is geared to things that you want to work on and that are meaningful to you, and we kind of go through that on the evaluation. One more that we want to demo is the sit to stand, because again, this is one that every single person will do every single session. We can make them a little bit easier if we need to, or a little bit more challenging, depending on what surface you're sitting on and how high it is, or maybe we have you hold a weight or something while we're doing it. So after you complete LSVT big or loud, again, exercise, homework, that's going to be the most important thing. So even after completing LSVT, it's supposed to be for a lifetime. So you're supposed to still continue completing those exercises every single day. After completing your LSVT program, there are other like exercise options. So there is Big for Life and Loud for Life. That is just, I think it's a weekly program, maybe. But there's more information on like the LSVT Global website that you can find. You can find clinicians in your area and groups in your area too. And then just to kind of reiterate the importance, all of this is backed by research and is proven to show results. And then I will pass it along.
Y'all are going to find out that I'm a therapist, not a speaker, in these next few minutes. But just kind of wanted to go over some of the research that behind the LSVT Big and Loud. It says, how can both therapy and exercise help people with Parkinson's disease? And research on exercise for Parkinson's disease, there have been many types of exercises or therapy options that have been studied and are recommended for people with Parkinson's disease. For example, the treadmill training, dancing, boxing, cycling, PREs or progressive resistive exercises, Nordic walking, and Tai Chi. And of course, there's our sources listed for this research. Regular intensive exercise and activity is very important, but it does not replace therapy, which is that one-on-one that you need with that therapist that has the knowledge of the LSVT Big or the LSVT Loud. And so why is regular intensive exercise so important? It says not all types of exercise focuses on amplitude, which is is needed every day due to small and slow movements, which affects everything a person with Parkinson's disease does. And not all exercise focuses on sensory awareness. When a person with Parkinson's disease uses movement that is in a normal size, it can feel too big to themselves. Unless they are specifically trained and recalibrated, their movements will become smaller over time. So you need that repetition, that training, that neuroplasticity that Emily was talking about earlier. And then not all community-based exercise is personalized, functional, and functional task practice at LSVT Big is important for long-term carryover. So making a plan. Consider starting with therapy first. Why? Because Parkinson's disease is complex. Physical and occupational therapists will help you to restart and optimize your function, restore and optimize your function, teach you exactly what to do after treatment, advise you on the best community-based exercise options, teach you how to use your bigger movements in your exercise routines and recreational activities, make a plan to keep moving well for years to come. Start as soon as possible after diagnostic, but it's never too late to start. So how to get started with LSVT Big and LSVT Loud. Of course, you need to ask your doctor for a referral and a prescription for speech or physical or occupational therapy evaluation and treatment. And then you can also visit the website, lsvtglobal.com, to find an LSVT Loud or LSVT Big certified clinician in your area. And then also, as far as the LSVT Loud program, an ENT visit is required prior to beginning LSVT Loud, and that's just to help rule out any other pathologies that may be present. So, 4 questions to ask when looking for an LSVT certified therapist. Do you deliver the gold standard dosage of LSVT Loud or LSVT Big, which is 4 days a week for 4 weeks, individual 60-minute sessions with daily homework and carryover assignments? How many LSVT Loud, LSVT Big clients have you treated? What are your typical outcomes, and do you have a follow-up or maintenance plan for your clients? And then that's also giving some opportunities to learn more, so they have blogs and web resources, social media. So their website is lsvtglobal.com, and then the blog is lsvtblog.lsvtglobal.com. And this is a great quotation from an LSVT Big and LSVT Loud graduate. It is possible to take charge of your life, even with Parkinson's. It is possible for your will to override your brain. It is possible to have power over Parkinson's. And that was Sharon Kha, I guess that's how you pronounce her name, Kha. But again, she was an LSVT Big and LSVT Loud graduate. And that's the end of our presentation. Any questions?